For every Skoda Octavia, there has been an RS model, the sporty one with the racy body kit, the wild-looking wheels, the really sharp colors, and the retuned suspension. And over the years, it's become something of a cult classic amongst enthusiasts in India. Now, initially, there were some doubts as to whether Skoda would bring the third generation RS to India, but they have, and here it is. And at a rather attractive price of 24.6 lakh rupees. But that's not the best news. The best news is that it finally gets the proper engine. You see, previous RS models were saddled with less power than their European counterparts, but this one, oh no. This is called the RS 230. And guess what that number stands for? That's right. 230 horsepower, a proper performance engine then. But more on that later. First, let's see how you can tell the RS apart from the regular Octavia. It starts with the new front bumper that looks far more menacing with its large intakes, 4 and functional. Then there are the anthracite Hawk alloy wheels in a larger 17-inch size with red brake calipers peeking out from behind them, and at the rear, a new bumper with twin exhausts and a purposeful looking spoiler on the boot lid. As before, you get a humongous 590-litre boot underneath the liftback opening, which can be expanded to 1,580 litres by folding the rear seats. And step inside and you'll find the same spacious back seat as the regular car, although it's wrapped in contrast stitched leather and Alcantara with big RS logos on the backrests. As before, the seat is a tad low and thigh support could have been better, but hey, this is the RS, so maybe this isn't the seat we should be looking at. Now, arguably, the seats that matter more in an Octavia RS are the ones at the front, and Skoda has really focused its attention on these, starting with the seats themselves. They're still electrically adjustable. In fact, the driver's seat even has a memory function, but these seats have a single-piece backrest, really nice, thick bolstering to hold you in place, and they're wrapped in leather and Alcantara. There have been a few other changes on the interior of the RS. For instance, the color scheme is all black now, and that suits the sporty nature of the car quite well. And of course, there is this new RS steering wheel. It's got a flat bottom and it feels really grippy to hold when you're driving hard in corners. You also get loads of red stitching just about everywhere in the cabin, which really adds to the sporty appeal. And the vast equipment list from the top spec Octavia returns, including 8 airbags, keyless entry and go, and the superb 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system with navigation, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. A welcome new feature, given the powerful petrol engine, is engine stop-start, which could save you a bit of fuel around town. And with all of that covered, time to hit the road and see what this baby can do. Now, if you drive the Octavia RS in normal mode like I am doing right now, you'll be forgiven for thinking after a little while that you're in a regular Octavia 1.8 TSI because it feels just so normal. As you can probably tell, it's very refined, the engine is in straining, the gearbox is shifting up nice and early below 2000 RPM for better fuel economy, and well, it feels like a regular car. It doesn't feel like anything overtly sporty. The only small grouse I have is that in this mode, if you do suddenly want to make an overtaking maneuver and you kick down hard, it does tend to hesitate a little bit. The thing about this motor is that it's really quiet until about 2,500 to 3,000 RPM, but once you cross that point, it starts to make its true noise, like so. So what you have to do to drive the RS the way it's intended to be driven is tap the gear lever down once to put it into sport mode. Now, a lot of cars have a sport mode, even the standard Octavia does, but while in those cars the change feels incremental at best, in this car it transforms it into an altogether different vehicle. For one, the shifts from the gearbox are so much more aggressive, and if you keep your foot down, it will rev all the way to the 6,000 RPM redline. It locks the car in the meat of its power band, and that means you hear the engine a lot better, a lot more of the time. And it sounds good, with a nice raspy tone as you rev up and a few crackles and pops as you shift gears. You can also take manual control via the gear lever or these paddles behind the wheel, and the gear shifts in that case are just instant. And with the car set to manual mode, it will rev even higher, all the way to 6,700 RPM. And onto the performance itself, which is truly something special. While the old Skoda Octavia RSs used 1.8-litre turbo petrol engines, this one uses a 2-litre turbo petrol engine, and it makes a whopping 230 horsepower. Torque is an equally staggering 350 Newton meters, and Skoda says that lets the car do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.8 seconds. But let me let you in on a secret. We tested the car against our equipment yesterday, and it recorded a 6.6 second 0 to 100 time. So it's even quicker than what Skoda says it is. You see, this is a front-wheel drive car, but Skoda has decided to fit it with a very clever front limited slip differential, and that really sorts out the way it puts out its power in a straight line or through the corners. There's very little in the way of torque steer, and though you can get some wheel spin if you try and launch the car aggressively, it is really impressively contained. Now, the true genius of this limited slip differential comes into play when you push the RS hard around corners. Now, this is a front-wheel drive car with 350 Newton meters of torque on tap, but it just loves to tuck its nose into corners. The differential does such a great job of keeping understeer at bay that it's quite frankly unbelievable. It just makes you want to push so much harder in the Skoda RS. In fact, it takes a whole lot to truly unsettle this car, and that is high praise indeed. So the differential is one side of the story. The other reason the RS handles the way it does is because it's been lowered by 15mm and the suspension has been tweaked just a little bit. The result is, while the standard car now rolls a lot more thanks to suspension that was softened with the recent facelift, the RS feels several times more taut and composed around bends. The steering is also weightier than the standard cars, but at no point does it feel too heavy. All this comes together to give you the confidence to go faster and faster. But one of the strongest contributors to the RS's handling package are the tires, a set of 225 section Michelin Pilot Sport rubber that offers up some serious amounts of grip. The thing is, it's still a Skoda Octavia at the end of the day, and that means that it has to be comfortable. The good news is that it is. They haven't sacrificed ride quality in the interest of better handling. And in fact, I was sat in the back seat earlier today, and I found that out on the highway, body control is actually a little bit better thanks to the slightly firmer suspension. So it's fast, it's fun to drive, and it's super practical too. But just where does it fit on the performance car spectrum? Now, first things first, the price. At 24.6 lakh rupees, it's no longer quite as mass market as it used to be, but then you have to consider that a fully loaded diesel Octavia already costs about 22 lakh. So it's not that much of a stretch, is it? And that's before you've factored in the performance. That 2-litre engine is an absolute bomb. And then you combine it with the limited slip diff and the lowered suspension for much better handling, and the super fast DSG gearbox, and you will agree that this is a great performance car by any standard. And at the end of the day, it's still an Octavia, so it's spacious, practical, comfortable, and loaded with equipment. So really, like all previous RS cars, it is the best of both worlds, a performance car and an everyday luxury car. Frankly, Skoda couldn't have brought it here a minute sooner.